Hi, Kitchen Kings and Queens. All right, we're gonna do a kitchen quickie today. We're gonna make two pizzas from the pizza materials that we have. So I have two extra pieces of dough, and I actually took those dough balls that I had before, and I made them into smaller dough balls because that will get you a thinner pizza. So I'm just gonna take the one dough ball, and you want to make sure, again, you're going to take the peel and you're going to really rub the flour into the surface of the peel. This one is like Epicurean, but this works just as well with wood peel too. And this peel is perfect for the size of the stones that I have. Okay? So we're going to take our pizza, and we're going to make a pizza that, if you're not from like the Northeast, you may not be really familiar with this pizza. It's called a provolone pie, or sometimes it's called like an upside down pie. And it's a little different than most pizzas, because what you do is you put the cheese on the bottom. And again, instead of using mozzarella cheese, you're actually going to use provolone. And provolone has like a nice, smoky, a little bit sharp flavor. So it adds a little, it's just a very different pie than a regular pie. So I'm just going to stretch this out. And if you get a hole, like I'm getting this little stubborn hole here, just keep patching it, okay? Just make sure that, again, it doesn't stick to the peel, okay? So once it's on the peel, you can kind of stretch it out. And you're going to take your provolone, and I have some that's already open here, and then I got some more. And you just layer it on to the pie here, okay? And you leave like a very, you can kind of put it all the way to the edge, and then the sauce is going to go on top. And then on top of the sauce, you often sprinkle like a little bit of pecorino or Parmesan, Parmigiano, if you're using the real stuff, which I am. I prefer that. Actually, it might be Grana Padano, but I think it's Parmigiano. Grana Padano and Parmigiano are similar. Grana Padano is just a little lighter in flavor than a Parmigiano Reggiano. And excuse me. This you want to use these deli sliced cheeses. My dryer leftovers from the laundry. There was a little string left on there. Okay, you don't want to use the real, you could use the sharp sliced provolone, but you don't want to use like grated sharp provolone. You want to use this sliced provolone because it's going to kind of just blend into the dough. They're going to kind of become one, the cheese and the dough. Okay? So there's our cheese layer. Now we're going to put our sauce, okay? And again, it's a homemade sauce that I made. And this kind of helps also get a really nice brown on your pie because the cheese acts as kind of a moisture barrier as opposed to having the sauce on there. So it just gives it kind of a really nice crust. You get a really nice crust on a provolone pizza. Okay. And I think I'm going to add just a little bit more cheap sauce here. Okay. And it'll all kind of melt together, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Gotta put a little more. Because they're really, on a provolone pie, there are no other toppings. Okay, this is it. Okay, so I'm gonna get the Parmigiano here, and you're just gonna kind of dust it with that. Okay. Again, before you put it in the oven, you just want to make sure that it moves on the peel like that. So that's an essential step. I'm gonna pop it on the stone here, and I'm putting this one on the top stone. Okay, so probably should put that on the lower stone. I made it a little bit bigger than what I normally do. Okay, so that's one pizza down. The other pizza we're gonna make is a white pizza. Okay, and that's another one that is just a really good pizza. And it's different than a red pie because you're going to use garlic oil as the sauce. And what I was doing over on the side here is I was using I have this really cool appliance called Roasted Garlic Express. And it is the most perfect, if you like roasted garlic, comb the thrift stores, comb eBay, comb any garage sales, yard sales, tag sales, whatever sales you can find to find this appliance, because they don't make it anymore and it's not super readily available. But let me tell you, this thing makes the best roasted garlic, and it's perfect every single time because it's just designed to do that, and it does a really good job of doing that. Okay, so notice I'm stretching out the edges. Okay, if you stretch the center too much, you can get spots where it's not good, and it'll rip, and then your pizza will stick to the stone. It may stick to the peel. So these are both different, unique pizzas. Okay, so this is the garlic, roasted garlic express. And what it does is it has a little pan here, and in the bottom here is a little terracotta disc. You have to wet the terracotta disc. There's a little button here that you press, and then that will give you your garlic cycle. Okay, and it's about like 24 minutes that it takes to roast. So I'm just pouring. You also add oil, and I always add extra oil because garlic oil is great, and it's a great thing to have. So I added a little extra oil in there. There's probably more in here, but this is the roasted garlic you get. It's just perfect. It's soft. It's just ready to be used. Okay, so if you like roasted garlic, and I like garlic anyway, but I really love roasted garlic, it is an ideal appliance. Okay, and this is all you use for the base of the white pizza. Okay, now usually if I don't have this, I would have like minced garlic and I would put that on. But since we have this delicious soft roasted garlic, I'm going to use that to make my white pizza. And you can see it's just falling out of the cloves here. The cloves are just falling out. They're nice and soft. You can smush them into the pie, or you can just leave them whole. That's what I'm going to do. Now, when I usually do this and I don't have the roasted garlic, I'll usually mince up the garlic with the oil and put that as my base layer. And then I put cheese. And that's it. And usually I like to put, unfortunately I don't have any, my refrigerator dining really depleted my normal pantry of things that I have. I had tons of what am I thinking of? Ricotta cheese in there, but because the refrigerator died, I had to throw it all away. So that really depleted things that I would normally have in my pantry. So I don't have that to add, so I'm gonna go without it this time. But usually I would add about like a couple like dollops of ricotta on there, and that adds a really nice contrast to the bite of the garlic, because the garlic, it's not going to be a problem so much now because we're using roasted garlic, so it's more mild. But usually I just use chopped garlic with the oil, so it's got quite a bite to it. And the addition of the ricotta just kind of mellows it out. It makes it a little bland. It's like a little bland contrast to that, the sharpness of the garlic. Okay, so just gonna kind of break these up a little bit and put them on there. Okay. I'm also going to add a little bit of parsley flakes on there. Okay, so parsley flakes are usually added to a white pizza. You can add them, I usually add them on the top. Again, they are a good contrast to the sharpness of the garlic, but since we're not using really sharp garlic, and I'm just going to add a little extra olive oil on here. Okay. Then we're going to add our cheese, and I'm going to use kind of a mixture of cheeses. So I'm going to use some of the regular old mozzarella that we grated in the last episode, and then I'm going to use some of that. It's basically like a 5 cheese blend. The Italian blend, the Fontina, and the sharp provolone. So we'll add that in there as well. So this will be like a 5 cheese white pizza. So here's that cheese. And then once it's all on there, then you can kind of spread it out to the edges. I like a nice small amount of crust. A lot of people in the rest of the country like a big crust, a big honking crust, but in the Northeast we tend to like it thin. and we tend to like it with a very small amount of crust. So that's just what I'm used to, so that's what I like. But whatever you like about pizza. That's the cool thing about pizza. Whatever you like about it, that's what you can amp up when you make it on your own. If you like crust, you can make it really thick crust. If you like thick pizza, you can make it really thick. Okay. Alright, getting a little stickage here. So the other trick you can do is you can kind of pull up the sides to see where your sticking points are, and then you can just kind of play with it there. Okay, so you could also kind of blow under it to see where your sticking points are too. That also helps to loosen it. So we're gonna put this in the oven. Okay, so sometimes what happens is your pizza sticks, like it did here. Okay, and I want to show you this because this is not ruined, okay? We can fix this. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the cheese that we lost, and we're going to turn this into a calzone. Okay, so we're just going to fold it over, close it up, and now it's a calzone. Okay, and to make sure we don't have any more snafus, we're going to take our flour and we're going to put it on here, and we're going to take our calzone now. We're going to flip it in half, okay, and we're going to put more flour on the other half here, okay, and then we're going to make sure it's closed, because that's essential. We're going to take our olive oil here, and we're going to put that on the outside, and that's going to give it a nice glaze, a nice browning effect, and we're going to put that in. I love when these things happen because there's like an inclination to want to freak out and just, you know, think that it all went to pot, but really anything can be fixed. And one of my favorite cooks to watch was Julia Child. And what I loved about Julia Child is she constantly made mistakes. Okay? It was just like a constant mistake fest. And she didn't freak out. She would just tell you what went wrong, tell you how to fix it, and move on. And that's what we're doing here. So here's our beautiful provolone pie. And actually, I don't want to put that on there yet because I want to cut it first. Okay, so we're going to pop it back onto the peel here. We're going to cut it because, again, we don't want to cut it on our aluminum pizza pan. So this will give us a good surface to cut. Okay, and then we could slide it onto our pan there. Okay, and you're gonna see our calzone is gonna come out great. Okay, so we'll come back for that. But just real quick, I want to show you something that I think is a good investment if you love pizza the way I do. This is called a pizza keepa, Keepa, and it's this great container that is perfect size for pizzas. Now, these pizzas are a little bit smaller than what this is intended for, but if you get takeout pizza from the pizzeria, it's just a great, I have 2 of them. And between the 2 of them, it's a great way to store the pizza. So you don't have to have that big box in your refrigerator, or like for me, these pans take up a lot of space, and I have a much smaller refrigerator now. So these kind of free up some space. They store the pizza really well. They give you some reheating instructions on the back. So if you could find these, they are great. They're called a pizza keepa. Okay, and they are really, really good. Okay, so if you can see on the bottom here, our bottom has a real nice crust. It's a lot more, it has a lot more moisture on the top as opposed to the bottom, so that cheese layer kind of gave it a moisture barrier. It's delicious. So that's our provolone pie. Our poor little white pizza became a cheese calzone, but that's okay. Don't ever think, even if you mess things up, that it's done, because you can always fix it, especially if you don't freak out. Okay, that's the key. The key is just to realize and to tell yourself that you can always fix something. There's always a way that you can come back from a mistake. Okay, so stop, calm down, think about it, and then act. Okay, and okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens, our calzone came out looking beautiful. Okay, it did snag. There is some of the cheese that fell off when we were trying to put it in originally as a pizza. Fell off. Delicious. But it snagged this end. I would have liked to put this in a little bit longer, get a little more brown on, but it's perfectly well done on the top and the bottom. So I don't have to do that. I like it well done. So then you can cut this into pieces. And there you have it. We have our calzone, cheese calzone, and we have our provolone pie. Okay? So I hope you try these. I hope you try and are not afraid to make mistakes, because they do happen, and they usually wind up delicious. Even if they don't look pretty. This wound up looking better than I had hoped it was going to, but it could have not come out looking so good, but it would taste good. So don't be afraid. You'll make mistakes. It happens. What I probably did is I probably should have floured this again after I did that one. I think I just was going too much. There was too much moisture from the dough that was on there, and just a little bit of flour would have resolved that issue. Okay, so you learn, you make mistakes, you have fun, you make delicious food. Okay, so bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens.